I want you to know this. The Bible's not about extraordinary people, but God doing extraordinary things through ordinary people. That's what it's about. And we look at Elijah, you're like, man, he's incredible. Well, that's just what it looks like to live a fully surrendered life filled with the Holy Spirit. And he was just as human as we are. And if we were a counselor looking at this scene, we would say that he was triggered and dysregulated. That would be the language today. A trigger is something triggers you. Here, Jezebel's pronouncement of his death sentence triggers him. He's triggered. Says he was afraid and ran for his life and wanted to die. You're triggered. And he's dysregulated. When you're regulated, you have emotions. When you're dysregulated, your emotions have you. When you're regulated, you can control your emotions. When you're dysregulated, your emotions control you. You know what I'm talking about? How many of you could just tell, there's some people, like you're dysregulated, you're just not doing good today. Like what you're thinking and feeling and sensing is not in the rational part of the brain, it's in the emotional part of the brain. I love you, but we got to wait a little while to get the best version of you back to make decisions. And so here, I was wondering, why did this trigger him and dysregulate him? Because up until this point, had this same death sentence been pronounced on him publicly repeatedly? Yeah. When it didn't rain for 3.5 years, they put a bounty on his head. He spent years under a death sentence, the most hated, hunted man in Israel. Why in this moment does it trigger him and dysregulate him? Well, maybe we don't know, but let me share with you something that as I was sitting and I was praying for you today, and I was praying for the sermon, something came to mind. There's this phrase where he says, where he's laying in the woods, he says, I'm no better than my fathers. And when I first read that line some months ago preparing, I thought he's whining. How many of you, we whine, right? Some of you are like, it's a part-time job for me. I whine all the time. It sounds like he's whining. Some of the commentators I read said, he's just whining. He's like, my dad and my grandpa had a better life than me. Woe is me, I'm not having a good life. And then as I was praying today, let me share something with you that is speculation, but it's for consideration. When he says, I'm no better than my fathers, what he's saying is, they're going to hunt me down and kill me. This could mean that they did that to his father and his grandfather. What he's saying is, here's what he may be saying. My family's been fighting this battle for generations. I saw my dad up against this government and these demons. I saw my granddad up against this government and these demons. And they were good men, and they fought hard, and they loved the Lord, but they got killed. We looked in 1 Kings 17 when we started the story that they slaughtered all the prophets and they closed the Bible teaching schools. That's what the government did, because it's always God versus government. We don't know anything about Elijah's family. All it tells us in 1 Kings 17, Elijah was a Tishbite. He came from the Tishbite region. That's all we know. But I wonder if he didn't come from multiple generations of godly family. I wonder if the reason we don't hear about his mom and his dad and his brothers and his sisters is because they were all slaughtered. This may explain why Elijah has no wife and no kids. Once you've seen your family slaughtered, you don't want to have a family. Especially if you know that you've got a prophetic calling on your life that's going to lead to a lot of conflict. It doesn't really work to run for your life through the wilderness with a stroller. And so what may have triggered him is remembering or being negatively reminded of the slaughter of his own family. See, there are still places that God's people are being slaughtered for their faith. There's martyrs all over the globe every day. This would make sense why he was triggered and dysregulated. If you've seen your family slaughtered and now they're coming for you, you're thinking, I'm going to suffer the same fate as my family. Just another generation losing and dying. If so, if he's remembering those haunting scenes growing up of seeing the murder and execution of his own family, it would make sense that he was triggered and dysregulated.
Howdy, Pastor Mark here. Thanks for viewing the clip. And if you'd like the entire sermon, we've got it ready to go.